Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are discussing Ambarish Maharaj funded by Radhika Vallabha. Yesterday we discussed till the verse number 45. So when Ambarish Maharaj, when he saw that the time for completing the vrata was about to get over, at the same time Durvasa Muni had not returned after taking bath for honoring the prasadam. Ambarish Maharaj consulted the Brahmanas as to what he should do. So if we see in the scriptures in general and also in Srimad Bhagavatam in particular, there are various instances of Dharma Sankata, where a person is actually put in a Dharma Sankata about in which a person is confused about which dharma to execute. Dharma Sankata is one of the consistent themes in the Shastra. The Bhagavad Gita starts with the Dharma Sankata. Bhagavad Gita is called as Dharma Shastra. When we recite the Bhagavad Gita, at the end of every chapter, we say that Krishna Arjuna Samvade Dharma Shastre. So Bhagavad Gita is a scripture on Dharma, and Bhagavad Gita is the fundamental question, the fundamental basis of Bhagavad Gita is Karpanya Dosho Pakata Swabhava Vrichamitvam Dharma Sammuda Cheta. I am bewildered about my Dharma. I don't know which Dharma to execute. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam also, in fact, various stories are actually are based on this theme of Dharma Sankata. When there is a conflict between two dharmas, the conflict can be between two Samanya dharmas, or the conflict can be between Samanya dharma and Vishesha dharma, or the conflict can be between two Vishesha dharma. So Samanya dharma is the Varnashram dharma. Vishesha dharma is the Bhagavad dharma. Sometimes the conflict is between the Samanya dharma and the Vishesha dharma. Like for example, in the Ambarish Maharaj story, completing the Dwadashi Vrata is the Bhagavata dharma, the devotional service to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Samanya dharma is giving proper respect to the Brahmana. Now, there was a conflict between that. So therefore, when there is a conflict between the two dharmas, at that time our understanding of dharma is tested deeply. When we simply have a more bookish understanding of dharma, we will be unable to make a decision during the Dharma Sankata when there is a conflict between two dharmas, because at that time we will be forced to go deeper to understand which is the higher dharma in this particular occasion, which is the lower dharma, which is the higher dharma in this particular occasion, and which is the we will be forced to go deeper into understanding the spirit of dharma, which is the need of the hour now. So at that time, when there is a Dharma Sankata, we have to consult some guide. If a guide is not available, then we have to pray to the Supreme Lord and depend on His guidance and inspiration to make the decision. So Ambarish Maharaj, when he was faced with the Dharma Sankata, he consulted the Brahmanas. We find so many instances like there is a conflict between two Samanya dharmas. The example is whether Ashwatthama should be punished or he should be given mercy. So there was a conflict between two Samanya dharmas. Or other examples of conflict between two Samanya dharmas can be, even the Bhagavad Gita can also be seen in that way. According to Kula Dharma or Kshatriya Dharma, according to Kula Dharma, relatives should not be killed. Guru like Dronacharya, Bhishma should not be attacked. Kshatriya Dharma says that aggressor should be killed. Lord Ram was put in a Dharma Sankata, whether he should set the right example as a king, or he should perform his dharma as a husband and protect Sita, keep Sita under his care. So the material world is such that even the Supreme Lord is actually put in a dilemma of Dharma Sankata. So that is the nature of the material world. Dharma Sankata between two Samanya Dharmas, and sometimes between Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. And Bhagavatam has many such examples. Prahlad Maharaj obeying the father versus worshipping the Supreme Lord. The wives of the Brahmanas listening to the relatives and the husbands, or attending or serving Krishna. So between Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. Bali Maharaj, whether to listen to the Kula Guru Shukracharya or to give charity to the Supreme Lord. So both are dharmas, but how the great souls actually made the decision in those times, during the times of Dharma Sankata. So by that actually we that helps us to go deeper into the understanding of Dharma. And sometimes there is conflict between two Vishesha Dharmas. In the Damodar Leela, Mother Yashoda was actually put in a dilemma whether to feed milk to Krishna or to continue the churning of the yogurt to get butter. So she actually stopped the churning and she started feeding milk to Krishna. But later the milk in the pot was boiling over. At that time she was again put in a dilemma. Should I go and take care of the milk in the kitchen or should I continue to feed milk to Krishna? So we see the scriptures are actually filled with such Dharma Sankata instances. Even Krishna was in a dilemma. The kings who were actually held captive by Jarasandha, they sent a message to Krishna. They sent a message to Ugrasena and Krishna. They pleaded that please actually come and free us. We are actually imprisoned in this prison house where we are unable to see whether there is a day or night. We don't know if the sun is rising or setting. Such intense suffering they were going through. At the same time, Krishna received a request from Yudhishthira Maharaj to come and take part in the Rajasuya Yajna. So both were actually dharmas. One is the to reciprocate with his devotees. Another is to actually kill the miscreant. Another is to, like, both were actually devotees. These kings, we can say that they were also devotees, and they were needing help. Another devotees, Pandavas, they wanted to perform Rajasuya Yajna. So at that time, even Krishna was thinking, like, what should I do first? And Krishna consulted Uddhava. So there are so many instances. So here, Ambarish Maharaj, when the Brahmanas were unable to give the answer to Ambarish Maharaj, by his inspiration, he actually took this decision. Drinking water is equivalent to completing the fast as well as not completing the fast. But when Durvasa Muni came to know that Ambarish Maharaj had actually taken water, Durvasa Muni became so angry. He chastised Ambarish Maharaj. So here we see it is actually such a small thing, just drinking little water after fasting for 1 full year. Just drank little water. But the extent of anger shown by Durvasa Muni is completely disproportionate. Even if you consider that Ambarish Maharaj had committed a mistake, the extent of anger shown by Durvasa Muni is completely disproportionate to it. So here we see there is a expectation of respect, so therefore Durvasa Muni became so angry. So when we expect respect, then even if we get respect, we start demanding or expecting more. And we don't get respect, one becomes angry. So either way, one becomes miserable. There's a Subhashita which says that Jara Rupam Haratihi Dairyamasha Mrityuhu Pranan Dharmacharyam asuya Krodha Shriyam Sheela Manarya Seva Priyam Kama Sarvameva Bhimanaha. Mahabharata, this sloka comes there. Jara, old age destroys beauty. And patience destroys hope. Dhairya Masha Mrityu. Death destroys life. Envy destroys virtue. Dharmacharyam asuya. And the wild passion destroys prosperity, or anger destroys prosperity. Sheelam anarya seva. Association with the vulgar good manners, vulgar people destroys the good manners. And kama destroys shyness or modesty. And all these good qualities are destroyed by pride. Sarvam eva abhimanaha. All these good qualities are destroyed by pride. So therefore, we can see Durvasa Muni he became unlimitedly angry by the small, he was asked a mistake, even if he thinks it's a small mistake. That's why Sanatan Goswami says at the end of the Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sarvatyage Ageyaya Sarva Anartha Bhuvaschete Kuryu Pratishta Vishtaya Yatnam Asparshane Varam. Even if a person can give up all the material desires, the desire for fame is very difficult to give up. This desire for fame, which is compared to a stool, is the root cause of all the anarthas. Therefore, one should carefully avoid touching the stool-like desire for fame. So there are many quotes of Radhanath Swami Maharaj. When we try to seek respect from others, we should understand that our material fever is increasing. On the other hand, when we give respect to others, then we should understand that we are in a healthy spiritual condition. So the incessant craving to be recognized is the mind's way of succumbing to the ego. It is a symptom of a person who has not tasted the sweetness of glorifying Krishna. So like that, there are many quotations. So here, another point, like we yesterday mentioned about how so many stories in the Shastra emphasize about Atiti Satkar, guest reception, and especially about serving the say Brahmana, the sadhus, like that. So Shastras, they do talk about guest reception. At the same time, Shastras also mention about the attitude of the guests who are at the receiving end of service. What should be their attitude? So the guests should not make undue demands. Like for example, the Shastras talk about how the householders receive the sadhus, Prithu Maharaj receiving the Sanat Kumara, Nanda Maharaj receiving the Gargacharya. But from the point of view of the sadhus, it's also mentioned that Shukdev Goswami would remain only for the time it would take for milking a cow. Like he would not keep making some undue demands from the people, although he may be eager to receive such a person like Shukdev Goswami or a sadhu. There's a verse Krishna says in Uddhav Gita, Ittam Parimrishan Mukto Grihesh Atitivat Vasan Na Grihair Anubadhyeta Nirmamo Niraham Kriti. Deeply considering the actual situation, a liberated soul should live at the home just like a guest. without any sense of proprietorship or false ego. In this way, he will not be bound or entangled by domestic affairs. So here, this verse is spoken in a different light, how a liberated soul should live at his house. Liberated soul should live at his house just like a guest, without any sense of proprietorship or false ego. So in this verse, we can take in this light also, like what should be the attitude of a guest when he is going to the particular house. Although the host may be trying to serve him, please him in different ways, but the guest should live at that house without any sense of proprietorship and without any false ego. And he should know at the back of my mind, and this is just my temporary stay here for some time. So here, Durvasa Muni, he is actually, his ego is terribly hurt when Ambarish Maharaj drank little water. 46th verse. Evam bruvana utkritya jatam rosha pradipitah tayasa nirmame tasmai krityam kalana lopamam.
As Durvasa Muni said this, his face became red with anger. Uprooting a bunch of hair from his head, he created a demon resembling the blazing fire of devastation to punish Maharaj Ambarish.
So we can just try to think about the extent of anger shown by Durvasa Muni. So generally, to actually pluck out a hair, it causes immense pain when you try to remove the hair, and especially when the hair is not combed, when you don't put like oil regularly, and the hair is actually entangled with the jata. To remove one hair also, it will cause intense pain to the person to uproot the hair. So Durvasa Muni was a sage. He must not be putting oil regularly. He must be having a jata. And like there's a story of Radhanath Swami Maharaj in the journey home. He had a long jata, and at a particular point, he had to cut that jata. And then there was a person in Vrindavan who was an expert barber, but who had a tough time cutting the hair of Maharaj. And he finally brought a scissor or a knife which is used in the gardening for cutting the plants. With that, he cut the jata of Maharaj. But here, Durvasa Muni, he uprooted a hair. So that means like there's so much of pain involved. But the anger of Durvasa Muni was so much that he didn't actually even mind that pain. And then with that hair, he created a demon resembling the blazing fire of devastation in order to punish Ambarish Maharaj. Tam apatantim jwalatim asihastam padabhruvam vepayantim samudvikshya na chachala padandrapaha.
Trident and making the surface of the earth tremble with his footsteps, that blazing creature came before Maharaj Ambarish. But the king, upon seeing him, was not at all disturbed and did not move even slightly from his position.
So Ambarish Maharaj thought that I should not counteract the power of a Brahmana. Therefore, he just stood there, I should just tolerate it. Thinking in this way, Ambarish Maharaj did not even move slightly from his position. So Prabhupada talks about the fearlessness of Ambarish Maharaj and the tolerance of Ambarish Maharaj. Narayana Parasarve na kutashchana bibyati swarga apavarga narakeshu api tulyar darshanaha. So Ambarish Maharaj exhibited such fearlessness that he did not even move slightly from his position. And we can just compare Ambarish Maharaj with a Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni became greatly angry by a slight disturbance caused by the act of Ambarish Maharaj drinking water. Ambarish Maharaj did not even become slightly disturbed even when Durvasa Muni sent a demon to kill him. It's like a heavyweight boxer punching a child with full force, but the child is completely unaffected. So Ambarish Maharaj, we can see in this verse, Ambarish Maharaj also quality of Rakshayishyati Vishwaso, that he had faith that Krishna will protect him, or he didn't even, like he's exhibiting qualities like that of Jadabharat. Jadabharat was about to be killed with the dacoits. Jadabharat did not even put an effort to actually protect himself. So these are something which we can't even imagine how a person can exhibit such behavior. And that's why such examples there are there in the Bhagavatam to highlight the qualities of Ambarish Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj. Pragdishtam Britya Rakshayam Purushena Mahatmana Dadaha Krityam Tam Chakra Kruddahim Iva Pavakaha.
As fire in the forest immediately burns to ashes an angry snake, so, by the previous order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his disc, the Sudarshana Chakra, immediately burned to ashes the created demon to protect the Lord's devotee.
So Ambarish Maharaj did not make any effort to protect himself, but because Vishnu had given Sudarshan Chakra for Ambarish Maharaj's protection previously, knowing that Ambarish Maharaj will face danger in the future. So that Sudarshan Chakra, that immediately burnt the demon to ashes to protect Ambarish Maharaj. So did the Chakra destroy the demon upon the request of Ambarish Maharaj for his protection? No. On the other hand, on seeing Ambarish Maharaj, whose nature was not to harm, even those who intended to cause him harm and who were simply beginning to worship the Lord himself had previously ordered Sudarshan Chakra to protect him out of his affection for his devotee. The Lord had given the order that whenever there is a danger to Ambarish's life, you should kill the person attacking him. So the fire of devotional service of Ambarish Maharaj, the devotional service of Ambarish Maharaj is compared to the forest fire. And the demon sent by Durvasa Muni is compared to the serpent. Just like all the serpents get destroyed by the forest fire, the fire of devotional service of Ambarish Maharaj destroyed the demon sent by Durvasa Muni. So Prabhupada talks about the principle of protection offered by Krishna. Lord protects a devotee right from the beginning of one's devotional service. Right from the beginning of one's devotional service. And Krishna's protection actually comes in various ways. So here Krishna is protecting personally by his Sudarshan Chakra. But Krishna's protection comes in various ways actually. They can be inconceivable. If we see the life of the Pandavas, Krishna protected the Pandavas in various ways. Just like, for example, yeah, for a father or a mother who pampers their children, then that is not actually a protection by the parents toward the children. So the Krishna did not pamper the Pandavas. So one who is always protected physically can never experience the life's realities. So such a person would be in an artificially controlled environment and never exposed to the practical side of life. So the physical protection of the Lord towards the devotees, that happens sometimes, but many times the Lord's protection comes in very different ways. The Lord allows the devotees to go through different difficult situations in the life, which makes the devotee to become strong. And say, for example, in the case of Pandavas, Krishna protected the Pandavas by bringing Draupadi in their lives, and in this way stirring their life and making it action packed. So Krishna protected the Pandavas in various ways by bringing Draupadi in their lives, and for example, Krishna protected the Pandavas by protecting their vows. By protecting their vows. The Pandavas did not expect miracles in their lives. Rather, they acted discerningly and took the responsibility. And Krishna protected the Pandavas by protecting their vows during their 12 years of Vanvas, and many instances. So we can find various instances, like after that gambling match, the Kauravas expected that the Pandavas would become disunited after the gambling match. But Krishna protected the unity of the Pandavas. The Pandavas became even more united after the gambling match for the sake of Draupadi. The Kauravas expected that the Pandavas would lose their confidence after the gambling match. But Krishna protected the confidence of the Pandavas. So all this, it's not that Krishna came and counseled, but in various ways actually Krishna protects. So the Krishna's protection is actually, it comes in many different ways. So sometimes the people think that protection means only physical protection. Sometimes Krishna may protect a person from one anartha by giving another anartha. So here in this case, in the case of Ambarish Maharaj here, Krishna is actually, because he had ordered Sudarshan Chakra, and through that Sudarshan Chakra, Krishna is protecting Ambarish Maharaj. So upon seeing that the attempt had failed, that the Sudarshan Chakra was pursuing him, after killing the demon, Sudarshan Chakra started pursuing Durvasa Muni. So Durvasa Muni became frightened, and he began to run in all the directions to save his life. Just as the blazing flames of a forest fire pursue a snake, Sudarshan Chakra began following Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni was almost attached to the Sudarshan Chakra was almost just at the touching the back of Durvasa Muni. Few days back, one devotee was sharing that one of his relative, he was taking care of the cows. He had some cows in his goshala, and very committedly he was very committed to serving the cows, a Vaishnava, and every day he would be chanting different stotras. So one day he was taking care of the cows, and just happened someone few weeks back or few months back, and he was actually cutting that grass for the cows in a machine. And some mistake happened. He actually slipped or something. Like his head came inside that machine, and that machine actually cut his neck. And there was profuse blood started coming, and immediately he shouted. And then the family members came and took him to the hospital, and then of course on the way he died actually. And like before the before sir, when he was actually cutting the grass, or just before that, he was chanting the Sudarshan Stotra. In the Sri Vaishnavas Sampradaya, there are like a particular stotra to glorify Sudarshan. And he was just chanting Sudarshan Stotra, and then like this machine, in the machine also the chakra kind of blade kind of this thing that actually cut his neck while serving the cows and while chanting the stotras, and then he died. So then the family members were devastated. He was chanting the Sudarshan stotra, but some another chakra like this thing that only actually cut his neck, and why Sudarshan did not protect him. They were tough time consoling them, like that the devotee was sharing. So sometimes the different life situations, they may be beyond our conception, like how sometimes devotees die, they leave their body. But nevertheless, one has to have the faith in Krishna's protection. The main point of Krishna's protection is actually it is not the body, it is the soul. That means it is the protection of one's faith. So in the case of a conditioned soul or a sadhaka bhakta, although we may be practicing bhakti, but still to some extent or other, we identify ourselves with the body. So when we think of Krishna's protection, we naturally think in terms of Krishna protecting our body only. But Kaunteya Pratijani Name Bhakta Pranashyati is referring to Krishna's protection of our faith and the soul. The protection of the body may happen or may not happen, but the protection of the faith is definitely, it will happen. So then Durvasa Muni fled everywhere in all the directions. He went to the sky, surface of the earth, space, the ocean, and the different planets of the rulers of the three worlds, and he went to Swargaloka. But wherever he was going, he saw the unbearable fire of the Sudarshan Chakra. Even when he went deep inside the ocean, he felt the unbearable heat of the Sudarshan disc. Like even one may wonder, at least in the ocean, because Sudarshan was giving such heat, intense heat, he thought that maybe if I go inside the ocean, I'll be protected from the intense heat of the Sudarshan Chakra. But even inside the ocean, he felt the unbearable heat from the Sudarshan disc. So that is the inconceivable power of Sudarshan. And then with a fearful heart, without protection, Durvasa Muni finally approached Brahma and asked, please protect me from the blazing Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord. So 53rd verse. Shri Brahma Vuvacha Sthanam Madiyam Sakha Vishwametat Krida Vasane Viparartha Sanye Brubanga Matre Nahi Sandhi Daksha Brubanga Matre Nahi Sandhi Daksho Kalatmano Yasya Tiro Bhavishyati Aham Bhavo Daksha Bhrugu Pradana Prajesha Bhutesha Suresha Mukhya Sarve Vayam Yan Niyamam Prapanna Murnyarpitam Lokahitam Vahamaha.
Lord Brahma said, at the end of the Dviparardha, When the pastime of the Lord come to an end, Lord Vishnu, by a flick of his eyebrows, vanquishes the entire universe, including our places of residence. Such personalities as me and Lord Shiva, as well as Daksha, Bhrugu, and similar great saints of which they are the head, and also the rulers of the living entities, the rulers of human society, and rulers of the demigods. All of us surrender to that supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, bowing our heads to carry out his orders for the benefit of all living entities.
So here, Brahma actually told us Durvasa Muni that at the end of my life, at the end of my the Dhruparartha, at the end of my life, when the pastimes of the Lord come to an end, Lord Vishnu, by the movement of his eyebrows, Bhrubanga Matrena. So that means by the time factor, through the time factor, Lord actually, simply by the movement of his eyebrows, he allows the time to act. So by that, Lord Vishnu vanquishes the entire universe, including our places of residence. Kalatmano yasya tiro bhavishyati. And I myself, Shiva, Daksha, Bhrigu, and Prajapatis, and all the rulers of the living entities and the rulers of the Devatas, all of us surrender to Vishnu. Sarve vayam yan niyamam prapanna. Yan niyamam prapanna. Murnyarpitam lokahitam vakamaha. All of us carry out Vishnu's orders on our heads for the benefit of all living entities. So here in this chapter, we also see that how Brahma and Shiva, they also accept their subordinate position to Vishnu. So when Durvasa Muni saw that Brahma could not help him, so Durvasa Muni was he went and took shelter of Lord Shiva and Kailash. And the next verses are spoken by Lord Shiva. Vayam natata prabhavama bhumni yasmin parenye pyajajiva kosha bhavanti kale na bhavanti hidrisha sahasrasho yatra vayam brahmamaha.
Lord Shiva said, "My dear son, I, Lord Brahma, and the other demigods who rotate within this universe under the misconception of our greatness cannot exhibit any power to compete with the Supreme Personality Godhead. For innumerable universes and their inhabitants come into existence and are annihilated by the simple direction of the Lord."
I will read the next three verses also. Aham sanat kumarascha narado bhagavanajah kapilo pantaratamo devalo dharma asurihi marichi pramukaschanye siddesha paradarshana vidamana vayam sarve yanmayam mayayavrita tasya vishveshwarasyedam shastram durvishakam hina tamevam sharanam yahi haristesham vidasyati.
Past,
Past,
present,
past,
past, present, and
present.
future are known to me, Lord Shiva, Sanat Kumar, Narada, the most revered Lord Brahma, Kapila, the son of Devhuti, Apantaratma, Lord Vyasadev, Devala, Yamraj, Asuri, Marichi, and many saintly persons headed by him, as well as many others who have achieved perfection. Nonetheless, because we are covered by the illusory energy of the Lord, we cannot understand how expensive that illusory energy is. You should simply approach the Supreme Personality Godhead to get relief. For this, Sudarshana Chakra is intolerable even to us. Go to Lord Vishnu. He will certainly be kind enough to bestow all good fortune upon you.
Even Lord Shiva is actually accepting his subordination to the Lord. Myself, Sanat Kumara, Narada, Brahma, Kapila, as well as many others who achieved perfection. Although we know everything, although knowing everything, but we do not know the power of Lord's Maya because we ourselves are covered by Maya. And this Sudarshan Chakra is intolerable even to us. Therefore, go to the Supreme Lord, he will create auspiciousness. So, once Radhanath Swami Maharaj was giving a class on this Dhruvasamani pastime, one child asked the question to Maharaj. When Dhruvasamani offered obeisances to Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, Sudarshan disc could have killed him. Why was he not killed? Maharaj said that Lord's weapon also follows an etiquette. When a person is in a humble state, he does not kill a person who is offering obeisances. So in this particular pastime, Ambarish Maharaj externally appeared to be an attached householder, king with so much of opulences, and Durvasa Muni appeared to be a detached renunciate. But when Sudarshan Chakra appeared, that revealed to the whole world who was attached and who was detached. So Ambarish Maharaj exhibited such detachment by not moving from his place even for even by 1 inch. He did not even make an attempt to protect his body. But Durvasa Muni, he showed his attachment to the body by running everywhere to protect himself. And this past normally a sannyasi is superior to a grahastha, but bhakti reverses the hierarchy. So here, because of the bhakti of Ambarish Maharaj's superiority over Durvasa Muni is actually revealed. And also, this episode also reveals that Durvasa Muni is a great mystic yogi, but this pastime reveals that the topmost of all the mystic yogis is a devotee of the Lord. Yogi nam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam sameyuktatamo mataha. So this pastime also reveals this principle. So Durvasa Muni went to Vaikunta, where the Supreme Lord resides with his consort Lakshmi. So Durvasa Muni was thinking, he told Lord Shiva, "Oh Shiva, my pride and my powers has gone to hell. No one, not even Brahma, can save me. And I hoped that at least Shiva, my worshipable deity, would protect me. But that has also been a failure. Now, in order to save my life, I must go to Vishnu, because of whose devotee I have ended up in such a disastrous condition." So then Durvasa Muni, being scorched by the heat of Sudarshan Chakra, he fell at the feet of Lord Narayan. And he called out to Lord Narayan that I am a great offender, O protector of the universe, please give me protection. 62nd verse. Ajanata te paramanubhavam kritam mayagam bhavata priyana videhi tasya pachitim vidatar muccheta yannam yudite narakopi.
O my Lord, O Supreme Controller, without knowledge of your unlimited prowess, I have offended your most dear devotee. Very kindly save me from the reaction of this offense. You can do everything, for even if a person is fit for going to hell, you can deliver him simply by awakening within his heart the holy name of your Lordship.
So ajanata, without knowledge of your unlimited prowess, parama anubhavam, kritam mayagam bhavata priyana, I have offended your most dear devotees, bhavata priyana, videhi tasya apachitim vidatar, mucheta yannamni udite narakopi. O Lord, by whose name yannamni naraka api, a person in hell becomes liberated, mucheta. So videhi tasya apachitim, please do something to nullify this offense. So now for the next series of verses, next I think 5-6 verses spoken by Lord Vishnu to Durvasa Muni. These are very famous verses in the Bhagavatam. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aham Bhakta Paradino Kyasvatantra Ivadvija Sadhubir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhaktajana Priyaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahmana, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the cores of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me.
So Lord Vishnu is saying, just as Brahma and Shiva cannot save you because they are dependent on me, since I am also dependent, I also cannot save you. Then Durvasa Muni says, but you become dependent on your devotees by your nature, but this is not desired by the devotees. You are actually independent. You become dependent on your devotees voluntarily, but like Brahma and Shiva are, because they are inferior to you, they are naturally dependent on you. But in your case, you are actually independent, but you just voluntarily try to become dependent on your devotees. So why do you say that you cannot save me? Because you are truly independent. The Lord says, yeah, that is true that I am independent, but by my own will, I become dependent on my devotees because I cannot give up my various sentiments towards them. So that is the word aham bhakta paradino hasvatantra iva dvija. The word iva that actually is giving this particular import, that I cannot actually give up various sentiments towards them because by my will I become dependent on my devotees. But Durvasa Muni says, but can't you see my suffering? Do you not become compassionate by seeing my suffering? Why don't you actually show compassion towards me by seeing my suffering? Then Lord Vishnu says, that is true. That is true that you are actually suffering, but I do not have such a quality in my mind. My heart is controlled by the best devotees without a desire even for liberation. Who are without desire even for liberation. Seeing that, like, I want to give liberation to my devotees, but even that liberation is not attractive to my devotees. And when I see that my devotees are not attracted even to liberation, then I forcefully give my own heart to my devotees. And accepting my heart, my devotees make that one with their own hearts. And they fix it there with a devotion. So therefore, I do not have any independent mercy. My mercy exists only in the mercy of my devotees. My mercy follows the mercy of the devotees. And therefore, like I cannot show mercy because I have given my heart to the devotees. When I saw that my devotees are not ready to accept even the liberation which I am giving, then I just gave my own heart to my devotees, and the devotees have actually taken my heart and they have made my heart one with their heart. So therefore, my heart is not under my control. My devotees have made one with them. So therefore, my mercy follows the mercy of the devotees. Whomever they decide to show mercy, I actually give mercy. And this is well known to all the people and is known to you. So persons protected by the devotees are dear to me. What to speak of the devotees themselves? So that's why he says that Bhaktair Bhakta Jana Priyaha. So even those people who are actually protected by the devotees are dear to me. What to speak of the devotees themselves? So therefore, O Durvasa, O ignorant Brahmana, consider all these things. Do you not consider this? Like he is imploring that you have to approach actually Ambarish Maharaj only. That's what he is indicating. So Prabhupada explains that why the Supreme Lord is fully under the control of the devotee. What makes the Lord come under the control of the devotees? Because the devotees have the quality of Anya Abhilashita Shunya. So they don't have any personal motivation, therefore the Lord becomes under the control of them. So because of the transcendental qualification, the Lord is extremely favorable to the devotees. Indeed, not only the devotees, but also the devotees of the devotees. So therefore, Prabhupada is quoting this verses, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva, Nistara, Payeche Keba, Gopi Bharatur Pada Kamalayor, Dasa Dasanudas. And even the Sri Sampradaya, I was attending a course on Nyaya, Mimamsa and Vedanta. So at the end, the Vedanta course, they were explaining about the way to attain the ultimate goal. Yeah, the ultimate goal in the Sri Sampradaya, attaining Vaikuntha, attaining the Narayan, attaining the Supreme Lord. So Vaishnava Sampradaya. So they said there are two paths. One is Bhakti, another is Prapatti. So sometimes the terms in one Sampradaya is defined differently in another Sampradaya. The word Bhakti is defined by Rupa Goswami as Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanavutam. And we see the characteristics of Bhakti. Bhakti is independent of Jnana and Karma. So many verses we know in the Bhagavatam. But in the Sri Sampradaya, the definition of Bhakti is different actually. They say there are two paths to attain the Supreme Lord, Bhakti and Prapatti. Prapatti means Sharanagati. And Bhakti is the inferior path, Sharanagati is the superior path. And according the way it is, Bhakti is defined over there is that Bhakti is defined as if it is dependent on Jnana and Karma. So in order to practice Bhakti, one has to practice Nishkama Karma Yoga, one has to execute Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti is dependent on these practices. Bhakti is dependent on the purification coming from Nishkama Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And many other things actually. And Bhakti can be practiced, I think, only by the males, like that it's explained there. Because the term Bhakti is defined differently. So sometimes what has happened, some ISKCON devotees, without understanding that how the term Bhakti is defined differently in the Sri Sampradaya, and because so they have got confused. Some of the initiated devotees, they even stopped chanting. Because the way Bhakti is defined is that Bhakti means it is a process in which a living entity depends on his own effort to attain the Lord. Whereas prapatti is the process in which a living entity understands that it is not within my capacity to attain the Lord. So let me completely surrender to the Lord, and I cannot attain the Lord on my own effort. Realizing that a person performs a sharanagati or prapatti. So in their path, the sampradaya bhakti is defined as an inferior path where a person depends on his own effort. But we know that in our case, bhakti is not defined like that in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. So just like sometimes there are two different in two languages, a same term will mean something in one language, and it can mean something completely different in another language. I don't have any immediate example of a word, but sometimes say some particular word in say Hindi or Malayalam may mean something. The same word in Russia, it may mean something different, completely out of the context, not even remotely connected to the meaning of the same word in another language. So when you use that word, you mean that word in some particular way, but when you use that word when you go to that particular country, that culture, when you use that word, and when they hear, they'll be looking very strangely because they understand the meaning of the word in a different way, and they will they will see that what this person is talking about. They may look strangely. So similarly, sometimes the word bhakti is defined in a different way in the Sri Sampradaya. It's defined in a different way in Gaudiya Sampradaya. So they say bhakti, higher than bhakti is the path of prapatti. Prapatti is the sharanagati. So those people who cannot practice the difficult process of bhakti, in which for which the pre-qualification is the purification coming from Nishkama Karma, Jnana Marga, only they can practice bhakti. But those people who cannot practice the difficult process of bhakti, for them the sharanagati is given. And also sharanagati is given even somebody is able to practice bhakti, but when somebody realizes that simply by my own effort I cannot attain the Lord, ultimately it is the Lord's will, then a person realizes that even though he may be able to practice bhakti, he just performs sharanagati. So sharanagati is meant for them also. And then there are other people that who think that even sharanagati is difficult for me to practice. Because there are a living entity thinks that I am so sinful, like I have so much a bad background, and I don't know whether I'll be able to attain the Lord even by performing sharanagati, or whether I'll be able to perform sharanagati. One may have certain doubts by seeing his own past background, whether the Lord will take me by performing sharanagati. Sometimes a person may be unable to perform sharanagati to the Lord also. So then, for them, the third option is given, that is called as Acharya Abhimana. Acharya Abhimana means then such a person should simply take shelter of an Acharya, a devotee of the Lord. Acharya Abhimana, or Acharya Abhimana means staying in the shade of a Acharya or a devotee of the Lord. And by that mercy of the devotee, then this living entity will also attain perfection. It's like, for example, mother understands that the child has to take a medicine, but the child is unable to take the medicine. So, so the mother sees that because the child is unable to take the medicine, so let me take the medicine, and then through my breast milk, which will contain that medicine, which the child is supposed to take, through that milk I will feed that child. And in that way, the child will also get the medicine. And that will help the child to come out of the disease. So similarly, the Acharya thinks that, oh, this living entity is unable to perform Sharanagati. So let me perform Sharanagati on his behalf, and then on his behalf, and then in that way, I will help this particular living entity to attain the Supreme Lord. So why I mentioned this is that, here it's explained that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identified himself as Gopi Bharadur Padakamalayur Dasa Dasa Anudas. He instructed us to become not directly the servants of Krishna, but servants of the servant of Krishna. So the Acharya Abhimana is like considering oneself to be under the shade of a devotee or to be the servant of a devotee. And that is the way to attract the mercy of the devotees, and that is the way to attract the mercy of the Supreme Lord. That is why I was just trying to share this. So Lord is saying that I am completely under the control of the devotees. So therefore, I have given my heart to the devotees, and therefore I don't have whomever my devotee desires to show their mercy, then I show the mercy through my devotees. That is what the Lord is saying. Next verse. Nahamatmanamashase madbhaktai sadhu birvina shriyam chatyanti kim brahman yesham gatirakam para.
O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons, for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences.
Prabhuji, can we have a break now, Prabhuji?
We'll discuss this after the break.
Hare Krishna will reassemble at 12:36.
Shall we begin? Shall we begin those questions which are there in the chat box? So one question is, with so much being in knowledge, are these arranged by the Lord only so we can learn? Or how can such a learned Durvasa Muni do such an act? Or in case of Agastya cursing Indradyumna, would Agastya not have known the difference? So are these arranged acts such as the Parikshits to Shamika Rishi? See, if we say it's arranged acts, it's not like something. It's not like a drama. The drama is arranged where different people are playing the different roles. Do we mean that is it arranged act like a drama? No, it is not like a drama which is arranged where everyone knows that what role to play. No, in the sense we can say it is arranged because not even a single act happens without the will of the Lord. In the sense everything is arranged by the Lord. But the devotees go through these difficulties in order to actually Lord actually gives these difficulties to the devotees in order to glorify them, in order to show the greatness of those devotees to the world. Agastya Muni cursing Indradyumna, it is not a mistake. Jiva Goswami writes in the purport that actually Agastya Rishi cursed Indradyumna because Indradyumna Maharaj was little pretending to be absorbed. That's verse in the that's mentioned in the Jiva Goswami's commentary. Anena cha purva vipreshu avajnanam kritavan iti bodhyate. Indradyumna Maharaj had performed some offense in the past to some Brahmanas. That is the cause. And he had developed a little stabda matir iti anena darshitaha. He had developed a little stubborn or a mental stabda mati. Stabda mati means I think stubborn or a mentality like that of an elephant. Therefore, Indradyumna Maharaj, Agastya Rishi caused him to become an elephant. So there is it's mentioned that in that Bhagavatam verse, Agastya Rishi is mentioned by the word Bhagavan. That means he could understand what was going on in the mind of Indradyumna. Ata eva Agastyo Bhagavan iti dayalutva sarvagyatvadanam tam shashapa iti bhavaha. Because he is Bhagavan, he was knowing what was going on in the mind of Indradyumna Maharaj, and out of compassion he cursed Indradyumna Maharaj to become an elephant. So, but here in the case of Durvasa Muni, it's not compassion, it is because of his ego he actually sent this demon. So, the siddhis that blinds many great learned Brahmanas, correct? How do we understand the one great and many parts? Why only one great? How to reconcile this? I didn't get this question. Somebody is asking.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, so basically, of course, there is an answer to this, but the realization that only one Supreme Lord and so many parts who are subservient. And see, then beyond that one, there is nothing else. So he's the only one. And everyone is subservient to him. how to understand this, that there is only one great and the other parts, and there is is there some sort of a circular loop. So one way to understand is that he is dependent on his devotees also. That's like a circular loop where he is dependent on the devotee is dependent on him. That way no one is independent. Uh, that is one way of understanding. So
That we will discuss now. The Lord is saying he is dependent on his devotees. That is because of the pure devotion of the devotees, actually.
Yeah.
He voluntarily puts himself subservient to the devotees. Otherwise, there is Ekale Eshwari Krishna Arasabha Pritya, Siddhanta point of view. Siddhanta point of view, there is one Supreme Lord, everyone else are the servants.
Yeah, so we take this with faith for sure, but always that one, I mean, of course, because of the impurity, that one doubt come, how there can be only one great and all others small, and then the answer also comes from within, that with our senses we'll never be able to understand this, and we have to go internal, only then maybe at some point.
Shastra, Shraddha,
Shraddha,
Shastrartha Vishwasa. He has to put faith in the words of the Shastra. Not even internally, one has to put faith in the words of the Shastra.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Regarding this this Sri Vaishnava meanings you shared, that actually it is just a different understanding of the words. But I was perceiving it like this, Prabhu. I just wanted to clarify that actually, as we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, bhakti has both aspects of endeavor and mercy. Like this Yashodamai, Kripaya asit sobandhane. After seeing the parishrama of Yashoda, Krishna became merciful. And we see that these three terminologies actually are the part of bhakti as per Srimad Bhagavatam, where we see that Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto is saying Naisham Matis Tavatur or Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha, etc. So this appears to be very clearly defined in Srimad Bhagavatam as well as our acharyas. And bhakti, the terminology is there in Bhagavad Gita to be like pure bhakti and mixed bhakti, etc. So is it that the understanding which was given there is not the full understanding, whereas the Gaudiya understanding, which is what we understand from Srimad Bhagavatam, from our acharyas, is full understanding? Is it like that, Prabhu?
The terms are defined slightly differently. We don't have to say their understanding is incomplete or this thing. Vishishtadvaita, all our Vaishnava Sampradayas, there is some incomplete understanding of the Vishishtadvaita, Shuddhadvaita, Achintya Veda Tattva is most complete understanding of the Shastra. But here I was just specifically mentioning about the term bhakti, how the term bhakti is defined differently. So when people don't understand that term, how it is defined differently there, and then when they hear, say, discourses of the, say, Sri Vaishnavas, so then when they describe the term bhakti as being inferior to Sharanagati, Bhakti Yoga is inferior to Sharanagati. So then some other devotees, they thought, oh, we are practicing Bhakti Yoga, that is inferior, and then they stopped chanting, actually. So that was because of the misunderstanding. The Bhakti is defined differently over there. So this is just for awareness. So otherwise, as I gave the example of different languages, the same term means differently in different languages. So when we are not aware that this term means differently somewhere else, then it may lead to some confusion. We use that particular word in another language. So few more questions are there. Sudarshana, can you explain whether Sudarshana is a Jiva Tattva or Vishnu Tattva? Also clarify this for Vishwaksena. I had heard at some place that they are expansions of the Lord. I have to confirm this. Sudarshana whether comes under Vishnu Tattva or Jiva Tattva. Even if he is Jiva Tattva, then it will be Nitya Siddhas. In the Jiva Tattva also there are Nitya Baddhas, Nitya Siddhas, and the Sadhana Siddhas. If the Sudarshan comes under Jiva Tattva, then he will be Nitya Siddha Jivas. Whether he is Vishnu Tattva or Jiva Tattva, that has to be have to clarify. And yeah, we are done with the questions. So I'll go ahead. At least I will complete the remaining verses.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead.
Haribo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In previous verse, I'm just not finding the verse. In the Vyasdeva was used some name, some other name. Which verse was that? Just now, what is the verse number? That Vyasdeva 59. In that, what is the significance of that? Apantaratma. Apantaratma. Lord.
57th verse. Apantaratama. Apantaratama is used for Vyasadeva. I will have to check with the root meaning of that. I'll check and tell you.
Okay.
Any other question? Or anything you want to share? Anything? Below is the link for Sadhavo Hridayam. Because I'm not. Yeah, people can read that Sadhavo Hridayam book. I'm not referring that book today, but you can read that book. It's Maharaj is explained nicely, but most of the points are covered in Krishna Chakravarti's purports, so I didn't go into that. But you can definitely, you are encouraged to read that. Okay. So next verse. So here the Lord is saying that Naham Atmanam Ashase Madbhaktai Sadhubir Vina Shriyam Chatyantikim Brahman Yesham Gatiraham Para. So without the devotees who take shelter of only me, I do not desire to enjoy my own bliss by my 6 qualities. So Durvasa Muni is asking, how much are the devotees your object of affection? Then the Lord replies, I am called Atma Rama because I enjoy. But I do not desire that enjoyment without the devotees. More than my own bliss from my Swarupa, I desire the bliss from the Swarupas of my devotees. Although both of us have spiritual forms, the mature form of the spiritual function called mercy exists in the bhakti within the devotee. Since it is the essence of the Chit Shakti, since it gives bliss even to my Swarupa, and since it attracts my Swarupa, I eternally possess my 6 great qualities, but without the devotees, I consider these to be barren. I am the one object of those devotees. So here, Jiva Goswami mentions in his commentary in the Shad Sandarbhas that the bliss of the Supreme Lord Bhagavan is of 2 types. The first type is called as Swarupa Ananda, the bliss which is belonging to his intrinsic nature, that is Swarupa Ananda. And second type of bliss is called as Swarupa Shakti Ananda, that which belongs to his intrinsic potency, Swarupa Shakti Ananda. So out of the two, Swarupa Ananda, Swarupa Shakti Ananda, the second, that is Swarupa Shakti Ananda, is superior to the first. And that is what the Lord is actually telling in this verse. Swarupa Shakti Ananda is superior to the first. So just 1 second, I just connect my PowerPoint. So, and the Swarupa Shakti Ananda is further divided into two types. One is called as Manasa Ananda. Manasa Ananda is that which pervades the chitta, that which pervades the psyche or the chitta. And second is called as the Aishwarya Ananda, which Aishwarya Ananda is related to the opulence or the majesty of Bhagavan. So what Jiva Goswami says is that, so he mentioned that Swarupa Shakti Ananda is superior to the Swarupa Ananda, and Swarupa Shakti Ananda is divided into Manasa Ananda and Aishwarya Ananda. And out of these two, the Manasa Ananda is that which actually pertains to his devotees. So in this particular verse, when the Lord is saying that Nagam Atmanam Ashase Madbhaktai Sadhubir Vina, in this particular verse, what this verse implies is that the bliss of the loving exchanges with his devotees is superior both to the Swarupa Ananda as well as the Aishwarya Ananda. The bliss of the loving exchanges with the devotees, that is the Manasa Ananda. This Manasa Ananda is superior to the Swarupa Ananda and the Aishwarya Ananda. And the Lord says that without my devotees, I do not covet my own self or my opulence. And because these devotees have sacrificed everything for me. So even if we can even try to appreciate this verse on a material platform also.
So, can you please again explain the whole thing of the little confusion? That three.
So the Lord has two types of bliss: Swarupa Ananda and Swarupa Shakti Ananda. Swarupa Ananda is that which is belonging to his intrinsic nature. Swarupa Ananda. Swarupa Shakti Ananda is that which is belonging to his intrinsic potency. And the Swarupa Shakti Ananda is divided into two types: Manasa Ananda and Aishwarya Ananda. So Manasa Ananda is the bliss which the Lord experiences by having loving exchanges with the devotees. That is the Manasa Ananda. This Manasa Ananda pervades the psyche of the Supreme Lord, pervades the chitta of the Supreme Lord. And Aishwarya Ananda is related to the opulence or the majesty of Bhagavan. So in this particular verse, what it is mentioned is that the Manasa Ananda, that is the loving exchanges which the Lord has with his devotees, the bliss from that is superior to both the Swarupa Ananda and the Aishwarya Ananda. It is superior to the Swarupa Ananda. Swarupa Ananda is the pleasure which the Lord gets in his own self, that is the Swarupa Ananda. Aishwarya Ananda is the pleasure which the Lord gets with his own opulence. So higher than that is the pleasure which the Lord experiences in his relationship with the devotees. A simple thing like material example can more like suppose a very rich person is there. A very rich person, he has so much of say facilities, cars and wealth and bungalow, everything is there. But the pleasure which the rich person, so every living entity loves himself. Every living entity loves his own self. And yeah, that is like we can say that because Atma, every Atma is actually dear to every person. And every living entity also loves the opulences which they have. A person has, say, different paraphernalia, bungalow, cars, and different things. But suppose a very rich man, he has all these opulences, but if he does not have a child, if he does not have any relationship, like we find that many people who have all the opulences, but when they don't have children, they are miserable. When they don't have a relationship, they are miserable. Even on a material platform, we see people, they really take pleasure. The real pleasure comes in the human relationships more than the things. Although the relationships are in a material platform, a bodily platform, but still, even in the material platform, we see that the greater pleasure comes in the relationships than by enjoying the things. And the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. And the spiritual world also, and the spiritual world, all are spiritual. The sense that the bliss in the relationships and the bliss which the Lord gets from his own self, and the bliss which the Lord gets from enjoying the opulences of Vaikuntha. All the opulences of Vaikuntha are spiritual. But even then, the Lord experiences greater bliss in exchanges with his devotees than by enjoying the opulences of Vaikuntha. Say for example, in a family also, the greater when there are more children or more members in the family, there is a greater bliss in the family. Although sometimes one may have lot of opulence, but if there are no children or there is only one child, something like that, the amount of bliss will be less. But on the other hand, somebody may be a much poor person, but he may have more children, 3 children, 4 children. So they may have actually greater amount of satisfaction and bliss. So in a material platform also we see the greater satisfaction comes from satisfaction and happiness comes from human relationships. And the same principle applies in the spiritual platform. So that's why because the Lord gets greater pleasure in having loving exchanges with the devotees, therefore the pure devotees of the Lord, in order to because they understand the nature of the Lord, they want to give greater pleasure to the devotees. And how will the Lord get greater pleasure? When the number of devotees increase. When the number of devotees increase, then Lord will have a greater number of devotees with whom he can have loving exchanges. So therefore, the pure devotees, they always want to increase the number of devotees, because they know that this will increase the pleasure of the Lord. And that is what Prabhupada explains in the purport. So, the Supreme
that Swarupa Shakti Ananda is Manasa Ananda, and what was the second one?
Swarupa Shakti Ananda is divided into 2 types, Manasa Ananda and Aishwarya Ananda.
Aishwarya, okay, thank you.
The Supreme Lord is self-sufficient, but to enjoy his transcendental bliss, he requires the cooperation of his devotees. So in Vrindavan, for example, Krishna is full in himself, but he wants the cooperation of the devotees like the cowherd boys and the gopis to increase his transcendental bliss. And such pure devotees who can increase the pleasure potency are certainly most dear to him. And not only does the Supreme Lord enjoy the company of his devotees, but because he is unlimited, he wants to increase his devotees unlimitedly. And that is why he comes to this world. And he is requesting the living entities to surrender to him because he wants to increase the number of devotees. And therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement is an attempt to increase the number of pure devotees of the Supreme Lord more and more. It is certain that a devotee who helps in this endeavor to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes indirectly a controller of the Supreme Lord. Because when a person tries to increase the number of devotees, he gives more and more pleasure to the Supreme Lord, and indirectly he becomes a controller of the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada says that if a rich man does not have sons in the family, he does not feel happiness. Indeed, sometimes a rich man adopts a son to complete his happiness. The science of transcendental bliss is known to the pure devotee. Therefore, the pure devotee is always engaged in increasing the transcendental happiness of the Lord. Therefore, they are always engaged in increasing the number of devotees. See, even there are countries like Japan or some countries, the family structure is completely collapsed. But then the principle does not change. One gets bliss more from human relationships than from the things. So in Japan, they have the concept of like rented families. You can rent a person for a certain number of hours, and that person will act as a friend or as a father or as a mother. With that person, you can have a heart-to-heart conversation. So, but all this actually shows that ultimately human relationships only bring happiness. And in a spiritual platform, we see the same principle over here. And even the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, when Nimai Pandit became a devotee, what did Srivas Thakur said? Srivas Thakur said that let the family of the devotees increase. Because the devotees in Navadvip, they were always wanting that Nimai Pandit should become a devotee. When they heard that Nimai Pandit has become a devotee, they said that the first reaction is let the family of devotees increase. So, because that will give greater pleasure to the Lord. Next verse. Ye daragara putrapta pranan vittamimam param kitva mam sharanam yata katam tam tyaktum utsahe.
Since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me, without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time?
So Durvasamani says to the Lord, you are affectionate to a Brahmana. You are also known to be affectionate to the Brahmanas. Since I am a Brahmana, do not ignore me. Then the Lord says that, yeah, that is true. I am affectionate to the Brahmanas. But then how can I ignore my devotees? Suppose if I protect you, you have offended my devotee. If I protect you, then I will have to give up my devotees automatically. Like for the sake of me, the devotees have given up attachment to wife and children. Ye daragara putrapta pranan vittam imam param. They have given up attachments to the different relatives, riches, etc., which are difficult to give up. But you are a Brahmana. What have you given up for my sake? Tell me that. And you cannot say that Ambarish Maharaj did not give up anything. Like when you engage the demon to kill him, he did not even move a step because he did not consider even his body to be important. But you prayed to Brahma and Shiva for the protection of your body. So although you are an Atma Rama with complete detachment, or you are supposed to be an Atma Rama with complete detachment, you actually showed such attachment to the body. So I clearly know the true value of you and Ambarish Maharaj. So therefore, like how can I actually give up Ambarish Maharaj, who has given up so many things for me? That's what. So Prabhupada says in this purport that he says essentially yogis are selfish by nature. That verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kama Sakali Ashanta Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atayeva Shanta. That only a pure devotee of Krishna is truly selfless, but karmis, jnanis and yogis, they have selfishness to some degree. So the same, Prabhupada elaborates the same point about the selfish nature of Durvasa Muni. Yeah, another point in explaining this Daragara Putrapta, one who is attached to the hearth and home for material pleasure cannot become a pure devotee. Sometimes a pure devotee may have a habit or attraction for wife, children and home, but at the same time want to serve the Supreme Lord to the best of his ability. For such a devotee, the Lord makes a special arrangement to take away the objects of his false attachment and thus free him from the attachment. This is a special mercy bestowed upon the devotee to bring him back home, back to Godhead. Yeah, next verse. Mayi nirbadda hridaya sadava samadarshana vashe kurvanti mam bhaktya sastriya satpatim yata.
As chaste women bring their gentle husbands under control by service, the pure devotees who are equal to everyone and completely attached to me in the core of the heart bring me under their full control.
So here, I am hard to control by Brahmavadis like you, O Durvasa, but I am controlled by the devotees. Since their hearts are fixed in me, they are without material desire and they see others suffering as their own suffering. So the word Samadarshana comes here. Samadarshana means my devotees are Paradukka Dukki. They see others suffering as my own suffering, as their own suffering. So, yeah, Prabhupada explains this word Samadarshana. So, universal brotherhood is possible when one is a pure devotee. A pure devotee is actually learned because he knows his constitutional position. He knows the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he knows the relationship between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. Thus, he has full spiritual knowledge and is automatically liberated. He can therefore see everyone on the spiritual platform. He can comprehend the happiness and distress of all living entities. So, if we like these verses also show that when we talk about Vaishnavism, although we may use the term Vaishnava very casually, but Vaishnavism is the most highest, the highest evolved consciousness. There is one spiritual leader was present maybe 1 century before in Bengal. He mentioned, although he is known as an impersonalist, but when he mentioned that Vaishnavism is the most highly evolved state of consciousness. But at the same time, he could also see that Vaishnavism, because he saw in Bengal that there are Vaishnavas who also become extreme and fanatic So he also saw that Vaishnavism sometimes when people don't have the proper understanding, or they can also become little fanatic, or they can become violent, at least in a verbal way. Uh, Sometime back, one devotee was sharing that he was there with another devotee. They were standing in the terrace of some building, and just close to that building there was Shankaracharya Mutt was there. And this devotee said, I think this mutt should be burned to ashes. So the other devotee was like taken aback, like we may have our difference of opinion about the philosophy of Advaitavad, but that has to be dealt in a very respectful way, in a philosophical way. One has to debate. But to say that it should be burned to ashes, that is not the way Mahaprabhu dealt with Sarvam Bhattacharya, Prakashanand Saraswati. So you could see that this devotee is having a wrong attitude. Instead of dealing with them in a philosophical way by showing proper respect and culture. So you are sharing this point. So I remember this quote that Vaishnavism, it is the highest evolved consciousness, but at the same time, when somebody is not properly directed or not properly trained, one can act in a little extreme way or fanatical way, or a person can be violent, at least on a say verbal level. So Samadarshana is a very Samadarshana, this consciousness of Samadarshana. Prabhupada gives the example of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj said that I do not desire to go to the solitary places in the forest, because I desire that I want to be in the midst of the cities, so that I can help the normal conditioned souls to actually take to Krishna consciousness. So that is the word Samadarshana, meaning of the word Samadarshana. Matsevaya pratitam te salokyadi cha dushtayam nechanti sevaya purna kutonyat kala viplutam.
My devotees, who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service, are not interested even in the four principles of liberation: Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Sarishti, although these are automatically achieved by their service. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems?
So these four kinds of liberation, they are personal liberation. Salokya, Sarishti, Samipya. Sayujya Mukti is something which is never desired by the devotees. But even these four kinds of personal liberation, my devotees are not interested in them if they see that there is no opportunity to render service. For personal liberation, it is not that the devotees are averse to that. But suppose if there is no if the devotee is told, okay, you can stay close to the Supreme Lord, you can attain the Samipya Mukti, but there is no seva for you, then the devotee rejects even the Samipya Mukti or Salokya Mukti, Sarupya Mukti. So these are, you might have heard these verses many times. These verses, they talk about a very profound state of consciousness. Like Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he talks about Virya Rasa. Virya Rasa, he divides into different categories: Dharma Vira, Yuddha Vira, Dana Vira, and Daya Vira. So, for example, in the case of Dana Vira, he says that Dana Vira can be divided into two. Dana Vira is that sometimes a devotee performs heroic charity. Vira is heroism. A devotee performs heroic charity for the sake of the for the welfare of Krishna, for the auspiciousness of Krishna. Vasudev, Nanda Maharaj, they gave so many thousands of cows in charity for the auspiciousness of Krishna. That is one type of Danavira. Another type of Danavira is that the devotee is in the position of a recipient of charity and the Lord is the giver of charity. Before that, like one type of Danavira is that the devotee is the giver of charity and he gives charity for creating auspiciousness for Krishna. And another type of Danavira is that a devotee is a giver of charity, but is directly giving charity to Krishna. In this, the example is Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj performed a heroic charity by giving everything to Vamanadev. And another type of Danavira is that a devotee is in the position of a recipient of charity and the Lord is there in front of him, ready to give any benedictions. So at that time, the devotee shows heroic purity by not accepting anything from the Lord except the service to the Lord. And that is what we see, like Dhruva Maharaj said that Swamin Kritar Tosmi Varamna Yache, I am completely satisfied. I don't desire anything. So here Dhruva Maharaj showed heroic purity. He proved himself as a Dana Veera by not accepting anything from the Lord, not accepting anything material from the Lord. Vritrasur also said that Nanaka Prishtam Nacha Parameshtyam. So the same, this quality of being a Dana Veera that is explained by Lord Vishnu over here. My devotees are, they are not interested even in the Salokya, Saropya, Samipya, Sarishti, although these are automatically achieved by the service. What then is to be said of the perishable happiness? So this verse shows their high position because of the lack of material desire. Although these types of liberation are achieved automatically, they do not desire them. Next verse. Sadavo hridayam mayyam sadunam hridayam tvakam madanyattena jananti nagam tebhyo managapi.
The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anyone else but them.
So here the Vishnu is saying the pure devotee is my heart. Therefore, what pains my devotee pains me. So I am the heart of the pure devotee. Sadhunam hridayam tu aham. And what pleases him will please me. And madanyat tena jananti. My devotees do not know anything else but me. And naham tebhyo managapi. I do not know more than they do. So although I want to give you the suitable result for causing pain to my devotee, still I am not doing so because I am affectionate to the Brahmanas. The devotees are my heart. You wanted to afflict my Ambarisha. Therefore, by that act, you have afflicted my heart. Durvasa Muni says in return, but if I have offended you, then I am falling at your feet for forgiveness. Then the Vishnu says that, no, but I am the devotee's heart. I am the devotee's heart. When the devotee's heart is pleased, I am pleased. Therefore, go to Ambarish Maharaj and please him. Then Durvasa Muni says, but then this Ambarish only invited me and he did not feed me, and instead, before feeding me, he ate. Do you not see the fault of Ambarish Maharaj? Then Vishnu says that, no, they do not know anything but me. Ambarish Maharaj does what I desire him to do. So tell me, between the feeding a Brahmana and observing the Dwadashi Vrata, which is more respectable as a dharma, which is the higher dharma? Go and ask this question to Ambarish Maharaj. He will teach you, since you are ignorant of the conclusions of the scriptures on dharma, and you are thinking that feeding a Brahmana like you is higher than completing the Dwadashi Vrata. And you go and ask Ambarish Maharaj which is the higher dharma. And then Lord says that since the Shruti says that drinking water is equivalent to eating and also not eating, Ambarish Maharaj has equally respected the Brahmana as well as he has equally he completed the Dwadashi Vrata. He has respected the Dwadashi Vrata also. But since you are not properly conversant with the Shastra, you are ignorant and you do not know that. And Durvasa Muni had not asked Ambarish about this, since he should be made to understand the superiority of the Dwadashi over all the Dharma because of its bhakti by seeing the result of his actions. So Lord is telling to Durvasa Muni that are you not aware that this is a higher Dharma? If you don't know, you go and ask Ambarish Maharaj. So essentially the bhakti is actually higher than the ordinary other dharmas. So Ambarish Maharaj, according to that, he actually drank little water to complete the Dwadashi Vrata. So suppose when you in the leg, when you get a tan, you cannot actually look for the tan in the shoulder. So you have to look for the tan in the leg only. So similarly, when somebody has offended a devotee, then he has to go and please that particular devotee by begging forgiveness and serving him. He cannot actually he cannot think that, okay, I cannot go to this devotee, let me chant some extra rounds or let me go to some holy place. So one has to go to that particular devotee and to whom he has committed an aparadh, and one has to beg forgiveness from that devotee. And here we see that devotees are the heart of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, offending a devotee means you are offending the heart of the Lord. And heart is the most important part of the body, actually. And then Lord says, the last few verses, I'll just read. So Lord is telling that, so I tell you the method for your protection. Go immediately to Ambarish Maharaj without a moment's delay. And one so-called prowess when employed against the devotee certainly harms he who employs it. Therefore, it is the subject and not the object who is harmed. Therefore, says that service to Vaishnava gradually accumulates and becomes an asset for the devotee. Similarly, harmful activities directed towards the devotee gradually become the ultimate cause of the performance fall down. So you must go and forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj immediately. And for a Brahmana, austerity and learning are certainly auspicious. But when austerity and learning are acquired by a person who is not gentle, and the same austerity and learning become very dangerous. So Lord is actually warning Durvasa Muni. So there are very beautiful verses in this connection from Mahabharata. We'll go through that next class. So therefore, you should immediately go to Ambarish Maharaj, and I wish you all good fortune. If you can satisfy Ambarish Maharaj, then there will be peace for you. So Madhvacharya quotes different verses from Garuda Puran that in this connection, the lesson to be derived from this narration concerning Maharaj Ambarish and Durvasa Muni is that all the devatas, including Brahma and Shiva, are under the control of Vishnu. Therefore, when a Vaishnava is offended, the offender is punished by Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, and no one can protect such a person, even Brahma or Shiva. And we'll go through we'll start the 5th chapter next class.
Right.
So anybody wants to add anything?
One question I had, no?
Questions?
This Ambarish Maharaj had, we generally say that he completed the vrata by drinking Charanamrit. So was it Charanamrit or just normal water, or what exactly?
It's mentioned as water only here, the Bhagavatam.
Krishna, and this 1 year Ekadashi is some particular Vrat Purji which is done in Vrindavan, which he was doing. Like Ekadashi, generally what we hear is that particular 1 day is there.
Maybe in the previous ages, people had a greater capacity, so therefore different rules were given. It is a special type of, it's not, I don't think, it will be a special type of Ratha, which they are doing once in a lifetime or once in several years they will be doing. And normally Ekadashi, it is just a 1 day Vrata. It's a particular type of Dwadashi Vrata. Just like a Kumsavana sacrifice or Payo Vrata, it was performed over a period of 1 year. Similarly, this is a particular type of Vrata.
Hare Krishna. Right, one question. This book Sadho Hridaya Mayam, that the conversations are there much more than what is here in the Bhagavatam.
Yes.
So that that is actually happened, that conversation, or that is like thinking in the mind that Durvas Muni might have thought and then Lord said like that, or actually the conversation happened like that, but it is not completely here depicted in Bhagavatam like that.
Like Shivaram Maharaj's his style of writing, whether you see Venu Gita or Damodar Janani book, or this Sadhava Hridaya Mayam, what he has done is that he has studied the different commentaries, and then he has interwoven the commentaries in the form of a conversation. That is his own, you can say, devotional imagination without compromising any Siddhanta. So all the, sometimes if we just translate the commentaries, okay, this is commentary 1, commentary by this Acharya, commentary by this Acharya, commentary by that Acharya. So one can read, but in a more interesting way presenting is that the same points of the commentaries are taken, all the points of the commentaries are taken, but in a, yes, interwoven in the form of a dialogue between the Lord and Durvasa. So that there is a room for creativity even in devotional service, that without within the boundaries of not compromising the Siddhanta. That is how the Shivaram Maharaj has written the books, and it is very interesting and more easier to read also. I read that book, but I wanted to cover certain portion from the Paramatma Sandarbha. In Paramatma Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami has quoted the same 5-6 verses to explain the nature of the Lord. So I am not able to cover that today, but maybe I'll cover in a summary from the Monday's class, and then we'll start the 5th chapter. Any other point?
One more small clarification. This Durvas Muni's story we hear about, he went once to Vrindavan, and there that river, gopis come to feed him like that. In that case, it seems that he is like great devotee of Lord from that story. So
Yeah, that might have happened after this incident. Durvasa Muni is known for his unpredictable temperament. Like the story of Durvasa Muni going to the Pandavas to take prasadam. But that incident happened, that must have been, that incident happened after this. So when they felt a complete, they felt as if they have eaten to the neck, they took bath. So Bhima was coming to call them, and Durvasa Muni felt that I already have experience of offending Ambarish Maharaj. Now if I don't go and accept the prasadam of Yudhishthira Maharaj, then I'll be offending him. So therefore they immediately ran. So that story happened after.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhu, one very basic question that I keep getting from many people, and where does the faith begin, and how do you know what you're doing is right? This sort of question, same line, all questions end up in, okay, yeah, we have to have faith in scriptures, and then you can, experience the Lord. But how do you know that is right? That's the
main thing is we have to go step by step. So many times what happens is that when we try to jump, we try to act on a higher platform according to our the whole process of devotional service is the evolution of faith. The first item is Shraddha, but every item, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema, all these items are nothing but faith only, more and more advanced stages of faith. So when we practice bhakti, faith a person initially gets by association of the devotees, by serving the devotees. Initially it starts from that, from the mercy of the devotees, and we start practicing. But the main thing is that we don't have we go step by step gradually. We don't. Sometimes when people make a artificial jump, or when they try to act on a higher platform, in which they are not, for which they are not qualified, then it may create certain disturbance. That is why Krishna says that Sve Sve Adhikare Yanishta. According to one's adhikara, one should actually perform bhakti, and that is an important thing. So one can go gradually. It starts from the association of devotees.
So this thing called faith, that's not easily explainable, correct?
Faith means you are not able to see with your eyes, but still faith is that by which you can see the invisible. You cannot see with your pratyaksha or experience with your pratyaksha, but still by the element of faith, you follow that process.
And experience is the teacher, correct? Experience is the,
yes.
It can be only experience after you follow.
We can, at present, we may not be experiencing, but by seeing the experiences of others who have followed that, we put the faith. It's like a medicine. When you take the medicine, immediately you may not experience the result, but you won't take the medicine because others who have taken the medicine, they have experienced it. Therefore, you take the medicine. And then when you follow that, you also experience to some extent.
But that experience is given very much even earlier, and it goes on and on and on, because so many intelligent so-called intelligent people in material world, they take to this path and they get some experiences bit by bit. It's not that at the end you will get everything, and so that experience is what increases our. Where does the faith start to begin with is from two places, right? That our previous karma and mercy of some devotee.
Previous, not karma, previous sukruti.
Sukruti. Sukruti is also different from karma.
Karma is just pious activity and sinful activity. Sukruti, I am referring to devotional credits.
So where does that in the previous life, that devotion, where does it all begin? It begins with our desire, correct, to go there, because everyone has.
When a devotee shows mercy, and then when you decide to accept that mercy, it begins with that.
Then does it start with the desire of a person? Because every soul is a pure. So if he desires, he can get it. It will be arranged, isn't it?
Yeah, when the living entity desires, Krishna sends a bona fide devotee to him.
Yeah. So it all starts with desire, correct?
Yes, we can say. The living entity is desiring, then the Krishna sends a bona fide guru to him. And then the living entity has to make the next step.
Yes. Thank you.
We stop here.
Yes, Guruji.
Okay. Thank you, bro. We'll continue on Monday.
Thank you very much, Guruji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, the next class will be on the Monday, same time, 11 to 1:30. Hare Krishna.